Welcome back to the Junius Maltby channel. Let's get right into this morning's headlines. Today we're going to talk about the closest the euro has ever come to dissolving. We're going to talk about the reason some of the things are happening in the gold market as it relates to that, in my opinion. And we'll see what's happening. There's a lot of material to cover, a lot of news. It's going to be exceptionally boring. So buckle up and grab what you need, because we're about to get boring here. Looking at silver prices, this morning they looked like they were down ticking. Gold was actually down a little bit, just a fraction, but then all of a sudden it just popped. And you can see it right there in that chart. Silver just going vertical this morning. It was up about 20 cents when I checked, hitting like $17.90. It's just really close to hitting $18 an ounce. So silver performing there. Looking at what would it cost a country to leave the euro. That's what everyone suddenly wants to know. This is a very interesting article, and we're going to get into it. We're going to read a lot of it. So what would it cost a country to leave the euro? That's what everyone suddenly wants to know. It's the closest the Eurozone has come to falling apart. Marine Le Pen, the leader of the National Front, will get enough votes in April during the first round of the French presidential election, but will be defeated in the second round runoff in May, according to the polls. Now, we all know how good polls are. So at least hopes the French political class and the extension, the European establishment. They're hoping Le Pen would be defeated because she is campaigning on taking France out of the euro after holding a referendum and redenominating the entire 2.4 trillion euro pile of French government debt into the new franc. Then the government can just print the money it wants to spend. There are some complications with her plan, including that the diverse and bickering French political class will unite into a slick, monolithic bloc against her during the second round. And if she still wins, her government will face that bloc in parliament. But hey, and now people are seriously thinking about it. Greece was on the verge of leaving the euro, but then within a millimeter of actually taking the step, it blinked and inched back from the precipice in the hot summer of 2015. And so for now, still no one knows what the cost would be to leave. They can only grapple with the cost of staying. In Italy, the five-star movement, which has been gaining momentum, is making noises about a referendum on euro membership. Italy has a special set of problems. It wants to bail out its banks, but doesn't have the money to do it. And it needs to devalue its currency, as it had done so many times before it joined the euro, but has no currency it can devalue. One thing is clear. If a country leaves the euro and devalues its new currency, it practically must redenominate all of its existing government debt into the new currency, because it would be impossible to service the euro debt with the devalued new currency. The ratings agencies, with their eyes on those euro bonds, have already spoken up. Moritz Kramer, S&P's head of sovereign ratings, wrote in a letter published in The Economist on February 4th that Le Pen's plan of redenominating French debt into new francs would constitute a sovereign default. There is no ambiguity here. It would, if an issuer does not adhere to the contractual obligations to its creditors, including payment in the currency stipulated. S&P Global Ratings would declare a default. Our current AA rating on France suggests, however, that such a turn of events is highly unlikely. Now, European Central Bank President Mario Draghi is stumbling into the fray. Quote, "The euro is irrevocable," unquote, he told the European Parliament on Monday to counter the populist rejection of the euro. "This is the treaty," he said, and that question has already been raised officially. On January 18th, Draghi sent a letter to European Union lawmakers Marco Valli and Marco Zanni telling them if a country were to leave the euro system, its national central bank's claims on or liabilities to the ECB would need to be settled in full. That was the opening, the if, quote, if a country were to leave, unquote. It meant that a country could leave. It was the first official admission that this was actually possible. It was just a matter of cost. That's how Zani saw Draghi's response. Bloomberg, quote, I wanted to bring up the issue of exit from the euro and how it can happen, unquote, he said in an interview before the testimony. Quote, Draghi has now clearly admitted that such an exit is possible, and now there is need to have more clarity about the cost. I'm sure that in case of Italy's exit from the euro, benefits exceed costs, unquote. Whatever the ultimate costs of leaving the euro, they may be greatest for the holders of affected euro debt. For the Eurozone's second and third largest economies, it has come down to just doing the math and making a decision. That's the closest the Eurozone has ever come to falling apart. Bonds are already falling, yields are rising, and NERP is dying. So very interesting situation taking place and unfolding over there in Europe. And I believe this is one of the reasons Germany hastened the return of their gold. We covered this story yesterday. We've covered it in the past. It's worth just touching on again as it relates to this Eurozone situation. Germans sent gold away to keep it from the Soviets. Now much of it is back. Just quick side note on this photograph. Very interesting how they are spending so much testing and confirming the authenticity of their gold bars. You can see the gold laid out on the table there. And it looks like there's a small hammer or something. Maybe some of you can identify the device next to the gentleman on our right-hand side there. If you look next to his left hand, there's a device. It looks like a hammer. And then there's obviously a syringe full of, I'm assuming, an acid, some type of a solution to determine the purity or the authenticity of the gold. And then there's another device sitting on top of the bar. Also measures and can determine the authenticity of these gold bars. So a lot of effort, a lot of time being spent there to confirm the delivery of real gold. Also, just another side note here, and it was $6.9 million, sounds like $6.9 million Germany has spent so far in shipping and reclaiming their gold. One more bit of information on that situation. German central bank to remove all of its gold from France this year. The Bundesbank has been moving its physical gold reserves from around the world back to Frankfurt. This is not news. The program was announced 4 years back and it's been in progress since. The Wall Street Journal reports that Bundesbank board member Karl Ludwig Thiel has said the bank will achieve its transfer of gold from Paris this year, leaving no German gold reserves stored in France. Now, could that have something to do with France's potential withdrawing from the EU and a separation taking place there? There's some very interesting moving pieces right now, ladies and gentlemen. Things are happening behind closed doors while most Americans are watching reality TV and discussing sports events. The world around them is shifting with economic plate tectonics. Gold buying Russia to intensify diversification on Trump unpredictability. As you all know, Russia is a big buyer in gold, as you can see here. Russia's massive and increasing gold bullion reserves are kept in tightly guarded locations across Russia to the fear of sanctions and the unpredictability of Donald Trump, according to The Sun and Russia Beyond the Headlines. Russia increased their gold reserves by a very large 199.1 tons in 2016. This was the 8th consecutive year of gold diversification due to concerns about the dollar and currency wars. We've talked about that in the past as well. From The Sun, Russia is hedging its bets with a stockpile of gold due to Donald Trump's unpredictable nature. The hoard has seen Russia become one of the world's leading gold buyers, a stance that it hopes will protect it from any drastic changes that the new U.S. president might have on the world economy. Almost 2/3 of the nation's gold is kept in Moscow in a central bank repository. The location of the gold, mainly in bullion, weighing from 100 grams to 14 kilograms, is a highly guarded secret. But the country's leader, Vladimir Putin, has inspected one of the storage sites, with Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev also having carrying out visits. Russia's central bank has previously declared that gold was a 100% guarantee from legal and political risks, making it worth the risk of a swinging price. Gold isn't done climbing, says Precious Metals Investing for Dummies author. Paul Mladenovic says, I believe that it will be a great year for precious metals. There's an entire article where he's interviewed discussing that situation. 11.1 tons of paper gold dumped in 60 seconds. This is an interesting article by Dave Kranzler. Central banks stand ready to lease gold in increasing quantities should the price rise. Alan Greenspan, 1998, in congressional testimony on OTC derivatives. Here the author of the article shows us a chart and discusses in a situation that took place the other day. The banks must feel threatened by the recent activity in both physical and paper gold trading. This morning, the price of gold was attacked in the Comex paper market after St. Louis Fed head James Bullard delivered remarks about interest rate policy that should have propelled the price of gold higher. Quote, we think the low, safe, real rate regime is unlikely to change in the near term. This means the policy rate can also remain relatively low over the forecast horizon. Instead, the Comex was bombed with paper. And there you can see the price of gold plummet in the chart. No news other than Bullard's gold-friendly remarks about interest rate policy, and they pulled the rug out from under it. At 9:54 a.m., an estimated 3,927 April gold futures contracts, paper gold, was dropped on the Comex. Prior to this, the average number of contracts per minute since the Comex had opened was under 500 contracts. This is 11.1 tons of paper gold, which hit the Comex trading floor and electronic trading system in a 60-second window. It represents approximately 30% of the total amount of gold the Comex vault operators are reporting to be available for delivery under Comex contracts, dumped in paper form in 1 minute. This reeks of fear. The Western central banks have grossly underestimated the Eastern Hemisphere's appetite for physically deliverable gold, despite an attempt by the BIS to mute India's demand by restricting the availability of cash in India's banking system. India's current demand is robust and will likely increase as Indians now have cause to fear the Indian government's war on cash. In addition, China's demand for gold seems to be accelerating based on Swiss export numbers. 158 tons of gold was shipped to China in December, far higher than the numbers represented by quote, official organizations tracking gold flows. Current premiums to the global market price of gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange are running in the low teens. So far this week, well over 100 tons of gold have been delivered onto the SGE. Except for the People's Bank of China, all gold distributed inside China must first pass through the Shanghai Gold Exchange, and we've talked about that at length here. The Western central banks will have a problem if the price of gold begins to take off, as they will lose control of their ability to control the price using derivatives. Perhaps in addition to the standard price containment operation on the Comex this morning, the attack on the price of gold in the paper market was in response to Eric Sprott's comments on King World News yesterday. Quote, there's no doubt about it. If they, investors, keep coming in and buying that kind of tonnage, at some point they will look inside at what little gold is left in the Western vaults and say, no mas. We can't keep doing this at the rate that they are buying tonnage because we will run out of gold. And if they see that they are going to run out of gold in a year or so, when do they raise the white flag? I have told you many times that the Western central banks have been making up for the imbalance in terms of supply and demand by dishoarding their gold hoard surreptitiously. A lot of interesting articles there, all of them within the last day or two breaking. We're looking at, in summary, a dissolving euro. We're looking at sovereign debt crisis. We're looking at Russia hoarding gold, dishonesty in the gold market itself. All of this, in my opinion, points to a future in which we are going to see a potential explosion in the price of gold. Keep stacking. Thanks for being part of this Junius Maltby broadcast. This is most likely one of our most important videos on the gold price for this year. So please smash that thumb up button, share the video with your friends, and be sure to subscribe if you're not doing so already. Thanks.